Alright guys, so this video is supposed to go through each question in detail um, to help you guys understand where you made your errors on this numbers and algebra quiz. And to be honest, I was a little shocked. I was a little upset about the results of this quiz. One because um, two of the questions y'all have actually seen in the past. Three of the questions, actually, three out of the five of the questions you guys have seen in the past, and the other, I, I, I don't know. I mean, this is the first review that we've done, um, so I, I, we're just gonna go through it. We're definitely gonna requiz because it was. I was just upset. I was shocked. Okay, so the first one, it says a racetrack is made up of a rectangular shape, 750 meters by 500 meters, with semicircles at the end of each diagram. Okay. Now it says Michael drives around the track once at an average speed of 140 kilometers per hour. Calculate the distance Michael travels. This right here, these 2 points, these are supposed to be like your gimme points. These were supposed to be the points that you guys were supposed to get. Now, if he goes around the track, okay, whether you've actually been on a track yourself, like a physical track, or whether or not you can look at this picture and determine, but when it says distance, he traveled around the track, that was key right there. He goes around the track, which means he's covering a curved distance, a straightaway, another curved distance, and then another straightaway. Okay? Now, these two curved distances make up semicircles. But if you have two semicircles together, they make a whole circle, don't they? They do. Okay? Two semicircles with the same diameter create one whole circle. So the distance that Michael travels, you need to consider are these two straightaways. So you should have had 2 times 750 to represent the two straightaways. And then you needed the curved distance. Well, this curved distance to go the perimeter of a circle is called the circumference. So what you guys need to do is you need to do 2 pi r. Okay? 2 pi times your radius. Now your radius is going to be half of 500, which is 250. And so that's what you should have typed into your calculator. Okay. Now, one thing that blew me, because I say it all the time, you guys gotta watch your rounding. You have to watch your rounding. When you type this into the calculator, I believe you get 30.70.8 meters. Okay. And some of you guys left that. When have we ever left that? That is not exact. Pi 3.1415 and so on and so forth, if you use the pi button, it's not going to give you an exact answer. So what do? You need to round this to 3 significant figures, which would have been 1, 2, 3, and then you needed a placeholder, and that would have been your final answer. Okay? So you guys, you got to be careful about that. Unless it tells you otherwise, it's 3 significant figures. All right? Now for B. B, it says calculate how long Michael takes in seconds, okay? So we know the total distance he travels in meters. We have how fast he's traveling in kilometers. So if you're trying to figure out the distance or trying to figure out how long it takes him, you need to have the same unit. You cannot have kilometers and meters. The easiest thing to do would have been to convert the 140 kilometers into meters. And how do you do that? Well, using King Henry died while drinking chocolate milk, or whatever other acronym you know, the meters would have been right here in this opening. So that means to get from kilometers to meters, you would have had to go 1, 2, 3. You would have had to move that decimal over 3 places to the right. So then that would have been 1, 2, 3. It would have been basically 140,000 meters. Okay? Now that's how fast he was traveling per hour in meters. Okay? Meters per hour. But it's not asking us for hours, is it? No, it's asking us for seconds. Okay? Now, we know that there are 60 seconds in a minute and then 60 minutes in an hour. So to go from hours to seconds, you would have needed to take this 140,000 and then divided it by 60 times 60, or 3,600. Okay, because if you do 60 times 60, that's 3,600. You would have had to divide that amount to figure out how fast you were going in meters per second. And you would have rounded that, or you could have left it as the number, whatever it was. Okay, I know it's 38.88 and some other change. Okay, I knew it rounded up to 38.9. Okay, but then to figure out how long it actually took Michael to go the distance around the track, you would have had to take this number, how fast he went in meters per second, and then you had to take how far he traveled, which was 3,070 meters, and you had to divide the two. Okay, you had to divide the two. Now, if you wanted to use exact numbers, like I said, this was 0.8 and some change. To get your answer, that would have been fine. But you should have gotten 78.9 seconds. That's how long it took him to go around the track. Now, if you did use the rounded answer, you would have gotten about 79.0 if you used the rounded answers, and either one of them would have been acceptable in the mark scheme. Okay? So hopefully, by me walking through and going through step by step, you guys understood how to go about this problem. Now, some of you guys did lose a unit penalty because you forgot the fact that we are talking about distance traveled, and you got to include your units. So do not forget your units. Some of you guys lost your rounding point because you did not use three significant figures. You left these random decimals knowing good and well wasn't three significant figures. Okay? You got to be careful. You got to be careful. All right? And number two, I thought this was going to be an easy 6 points, but you guys really, really struggled here. Okay? You only had a really one thing. It even gave you a legend. It says the sets P, Q, and U are defined as U is a set of real numbers, P is positive numbers, Q is rational numbers, and you basically had to write down in the correct region on the Venn diagram, the numbers. Some of you guys wrote numbers more than one time. From the very beginning, when we first went over numbers in algebra, when we were talking about filling in charts and filling in tables, you cannot place these numbers in multiple places. You can't do that. But some of you guys did that. Okay? Some of you guys didn't realize that this inside area where the P and the Q intersect is what they both have in common. If it's a positive number and a rational number, it went in that spot. If it was just a positive, it would go in just P. If it was just a rational, it went in just Q. Anything else went in your universal set, which represented your real numbers. Okay? 22 over 7. Isn't that a positive number? It sure is. And isn't it a fraction? It sure is. 22 over 7 should have went into this middle section right here. Okay? It's a positive number and it's a fraction. I'm guessing for some of you guys who might have got that wrong, you might have thought, oh, well, 22 over 7 is pi. No, it's not. It is a rounded fraction to represent pi. Okay, but that's not exactly what pi is. It's the closest fraction we can get to it being pi. So essentially, it was really just 22 over 7. Okay, the next one, 5 times 10 to the negative 2. If you wanted to write it out, it would have been, this would have been your decimal because you take the decimal and you move it back 2 places. Okay, this right here, if you typed into your calculator, it would have been converted into a fraction. So not only is it a fraction, but it's also a positive number. So it should have went into the middle as well. Something that blew me about this problem as well is that a lot of you guys like converted them to decimals or converted them to whatever number they represented, and then you wrote it down wrong, the wrong conversion in the actual Venn diagram. Okay, so you got to be careful. Just use what they give you. Okay, even if you use your calculator to get the number, whatever was originally given to you, that's what you put in the Venn diagram, because whoever your grader is, they might have taken off for you doing that. All right, the next one, the sine of 60 degrees. The sine of 60 degrees, it was a decimal. Okay, hold on, let me get my calculator real quick. This is 0.866 and some change, right? If you try to convert that into your calculator as a fraction, it doesn't give you a fraction, okay? Only thing it is a positive number. So sine of 60 should have went in P only. This one over here, I think you guys did all right on this one. The square root of negative 8 is actually negative 2, okay? That's not a positive number. However, it is a rational number because -2 can be written as a fraction of -2 over 1. So the cube root of -8, that should have been here. Should have been here in the rational section, okay? Negative pi should have went right in here. Is in the universal set. It is not a rational number. It cannot be written as a fraction, and it was not positive, so it shouldn't have been in p either. Now 0. 0 is an integer because it falls within the integer category. And if it's an integer, that means it is also a rational number. It is also a rational number. You remember me showing you guys this Venn diagram? Right there. If it's an integer, that means it's also a rational number, which means it's also a real number. So anything that's an integer is also a rational number, 0 included. So this was for number 2. Okay. Number 3, we had some financial stuff going on. Mr. Tan invested 5,000 Swiss francs in Bank A at an annual simple interest rate of R% for 4 years. The total interest he received was 568 francs. Calculate the value of R. The thing about this is that it said simple interest rate. That was the one formula that I said that you guys have got to remember. Simple interest is I equals PRT, where I is the interest, P is how much they started with, R is the rate, and T was the time. And it gave you everything. It gave you the interest he received, which was 568. That should have went in for I. It gave you the principal, how much you started with. It said he invested 5,000 francs. That should have been your P. Your R was what you were looking for because it asked you to find the value of the value of R, which was your rate, and your T was 4 years. Okay, simple as that. All right, you had to plug all that in. All right, now when you multiplied and when you divided, you got that R equaled 0.0284 when you rounded to 3 significant figures. But you guys, that wasn't your answer. If you go back and you look in the first sentence, it says that at an annual simple interest rate of R%, R needed to be a percent. So you had to multiply that by 100 to actually get your R. And the answer should have been 2.84%. Okay? So you have to go back, you have to be careful, okay? R, when you go to plug it in to the formula, yes, R should have been a decimal, but it asked you to find the value of R, which was given to you in the problem as a percentage. So it had to be a percent. R had to be a percent. Now, Mr. Black invested 5,000 francs in Bank B at a nominal interest rate of 3.6%, compounded quarterly for 4 years. Right there, it said compounded quarterly, which means you needed compound interest. Future value equals present value times 1 plus R over 100K raised to the KN, or whatever the formula is in the reference book. Okay, you need that K times 100 at the denominator of R. All right, you guys work with me because I am typing this because I'm at home. All right. Then you had to plug everything in because it actually calculated the total interest he received at the end of the 4 years. Give your answer correct to 2 decimal places. Now, it says calculate the total interest he received at the end of 4 years. Do we know how much he has at the end of 4 years? No, but we can find it using the same formula. We need to know his future value. Okay, he starts out with 5,000. 1 plus the rate. Now remember, with compound interest is plugged in how we see it. Okay, it says compounded quarterly. Quarterly is a number. Quarterly is 4. We have went over that. So you're plugging in a 4 for K. Some of you guys use 1/4. Wasn't quite sure why you did that. I guess you were thinking, a quarter of the year, that's a fourth of the year. Maybe you were thinking that way, but no, it's an actual whole number that represents like compounded quarterly, that's 4, not 1/4. Monthly, that's 12, not 1/12, and so on and so forth. Raise the K times N, it asks you for 4 years again. Okay, So you had to type all that in to get your answer. So you get 5,770.70 francs. Now that's how much that Mr. Black received after 4 years, compounded quarterly. But it didn't ask you for that amount. It asked you for how much interest he received. Okay, it asked you for how much interest. So to determine the interest, that's the amount of money that Mr. Black received in the 4 years, you have to take that amount and you have to subtract it from 5,000 because 5,000 is how much he initially started with. So then that leaves you with 770.70 Swiss francs. That's how much interest, that's how much money in interest he received after the 4 years of investing at 3.6% compounded quarterly. Okay. Now on this particular one, I didn't, like I said, I saw the errors mostly with the interest, the part A. And then of course, a lot of you guys forgot to subtract the 5,000, forgetting that they were asking for interest and not the total amount after 4 years. For question 4. Okay, question 4 says Susie traveled from Singapore to Thailand and changes 1,500 Singapore dollars to Thai baht. The exchange rate is given to you, and it's asked you to calculate the number of baht Susie buys. You got to give your correct answer to the nearest baht. Now, the biggest issue I saw here, which a lot of you guys lost the FP point, the financial penalty, because you forgot to round to the nearest baht. So that is to the nearest whole number. So this one told you basically how to round, and you had to round to the nearest baht. So for this problem, when you want to calculate the number of baht she buys, remember she's starting out with 1,500 Singapore dollars and she's trying to convert that into a certain number of baht. Okay, so remember I told you guys you can always set up a proportion to figure this out, right? So that's 15,000 Singapore dollars for a certain number of Thai baht, and the exchange rate is 1 Singapore dollar over 21.03464 baht. And so when you're sitting here and you're trying to solve this proportion, what you're actually going to end up doing is you're going to end up cross multiplying and then solving for x. Okay, remember a proportion is probably the easiest way to go about trying to solve these particular problems. And as you can see here, what you'll actually end up doing is multiplying 1,500 by the conversion to get your final answer, which again, you are rounding to the nearest baht. So your answer for this is going to be 31,552 baht. Now, if you did not round to the nearest whole, the nearest baht, like the question says, then you lost a financial penalty. Now it says Susie leaves Thailand and travels to Indonesia. She has 20,000 baht and uses these to buy Indonesian rupiah. And then you have the exchange rate there. Now be careful, it says the exchange rate is 3.28352 baht, and it buys 1,000 Indonesian rupiah. So you got to be careful on that, because basically if you set it up, you got to realize that that conversion's for 1,000 Indonesian rupiah. So how do we determine the total number of rupiah she receives? Correcting there's 1,000 rupiah. You got to be careful with this again. Okay, it tells you how to round it. So let's start it off. She starts off with 20,000 baht, and she's trying to convert that into a certain number of Indonesian rupiah. Okay, so you have that part. You know the conversion is 3.28352 baht. Buys you 1,000 Indonesian rupiah. So you have that. You set up the proportion like so. And so what ends up happening is that when you cross and multiply this, okay, and I'm going to swing this down here because clear as you can see, it's going to be getting, my font is too big. This is what you'll end up having. And so then you'll end up dividing both sides by the 3.28352 number to get your final answer. And then when you round it to the nearest 1,000 root pi, that's going to be 6091000. That's going to be your final answer for part B. I don't have any space to put this. Stop it right there. Okay. A lot of you guys messed up on that because you forgot that it bought 1,000 Indonesian rupiah. Now for the last part, it says Susie wants to find the approximate exchange rate between Singapore dollars and Indonesian rupiah and uses the exchange rate for Thai baht to do this. Okay, so now we're actually going to figure out what is the conversion to go from Singapore dollars to Indonesian rupiah. Now we have to calculate Susie's exchange rate between Singapore dollars and Indonesian rupiah. It says give your answer in the form of 1 Singapore dollar buys X Indonesian rupiah, where X is given correct to the nearest rupiah. So again, we have to round. Okay, so we know that 1 Singapore dollar is 21.03464 baht. Okay, and we know that from this part of the question right up here. And then we also know that 3.28352 baht buys 1,000 rupiah. So we're going to use those two pieces of conversions to figure out exactly how much 1 Singapore dollar is in Indonesian rupiah. Okay. So in order to do this, what we'll basically end up doing is we will end up dividing the two, like so, the two exchange rates, and then multiplying it by, it's a binary x, multiplying it by 1,000, since that is the conversion rate for 1,000 rupiah. And then we'll get our final answer, which is indeed 6406 here. All right. And now for the last one, the one that was worth the most points. It says calculate u sub 1 in the first sequence. Now, there are a lot of mistakes here. This formula right here, this formula was basically supposed to be used in order to help you figure out what the terms were in the sequence, okay? That is the explicit form. You know, once you plug in D, once you plug in U1, and you simplify, okay? So to calculate U sub 1, all that you had to do was literally plug in 1 into this problem, okay? Some of you guys try to, I don't know, use your own type of formula, and it ended up giving you the wrong answer, okay? So that one was 142. Now this one, show the common difference is 7. Some of you guys got it, some of you guys didn't. Some of you guys found the second term by plugging in 2 into the problem. Finding out that the second term was 149. And then what you ended up doing was you ended up subtracting 149 and 142 to get 7. Yes, remember that the common difference is, subtracting the second term for your first term. You have the formula to find your respective terms, so why not find them and then subtract them? You could not use 7 anywhere in the problem to show that, hey, well, 42 plus 7 gives you 49, which a lot of you guys did that. When it's a show problem, you cannot use that answer anywhere in your problem. Now for S sub n is the sum of the first n terms of the sequence. You had to find an expression for S sub n. A lot of you guys struggled because you saw that it said give your answer in the form of S sub n equals a n squared plus bn. Some of you guys thought, okay, well, I'm pretty much just got to plug things in. No. You actually had to solve this out. What you need to start with was the fact that this is an arithmetic sequence, so you needed to start with the formula for arithmetic sequence sums, which was n over 2 and then 2u1 plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, you should have started with that problem. Should have started there to begin with. Okay, and then from there, what you need to do is you needed to plug in, and then you needed to simplify this problem. And some of you guys, you did not do that. You forgot the fact altogether that this was arithmetic, and you forgot to plug in. Okay, so you still would have had your n over 2. You would have plugged in the fact that, hey, the first term is 142, your answer to part A, plus n minus 1 times your common difference, which we already know was 7. Okay, and then from there, you actually had to show the algebraic process to get to something of the form of an squared plus bn. Okay, so you actually had to show that, okay, well, let's see, that becomes 284 plus 7n minus 7. Once you distribute, you still have your n over 2 on the outside. And then you still would have your n over 2 on the outside as you combine like terms to get 277 plus 7n. And then you need to distribute. Okay, so when you distribute, you would end up getting 277 n over 2 plus 7 over 2 n squared. Okay, I am going to have to do it this way because I can't really give you fractions here. And then that would have been your final answer. Okay, so you actually had to show that algebraic process using the formula for sums for arithmetic sequence, and then actually going about doing the problem. Yes, a is a fraction, so a n squared was that 7 over 2 n squared. B n was that 277 over 2n, and that was your answer for C. For D, you had to show that the common ratio R of a geometric sequence is that. A lot of you guys did just fine with that. You used the fact that you knew your fourth term, and you set it equal to your first term, R to the n minus 1, since that was you had this. So you guys did really good on that. And then you guys divided to get 3.375 equals R to the third. You guys were good with that. And then you took the cube root to get that 1.5 equals R. I'm not going to go in and do the cube root part. Actually, yes, I am. Because some of you guys are going to think that that's all you had to do when you really actually had to take the cube root. Okay, because it was a show problem. So I don't want anybody skipping any steps when they're trying to go back through and correct their work. You actually had to show the cube root as well. That's how you got your last points. And then it says T sub n is the sum of the first n terms of geometric sequence. So you have to calculate T sub 7, the sum of the first 7 terms of geometric sequence. So for E, which I'm going to do right down here, you had to use the sum formula, which was your first term, times 1 minus your rate raised to the n power, all over 1 minus your rate. And as simple as that. Plug into your calculator, and you got your sum, which should have been because you rounded 3 significant figures. It did say except 643.4375. It did say except that, but I don't remember seeing that often in people's papers. All right. And then for the last one, F, it says use your graphic display calculator to find the smallest value of n for which t sub n was greater than s sub n. So what you actually had to do was you actually had to take this formula, except for n, okay? So you actually had to take this formula and you had to set it greater than the formula for S, which was back here, which was this formula. Okay, I'm going to be cheap about it. I'm going to take a picture of it. And then you actually had to see where this was true. And the only way to do that was to go into your calculator. Okay, you literally had to go into your calculator. You had to plug this in to y1, this into y2, and then look at your table. Okay, you had to look at your table and see exactly where y1 was going to be greater than y2. That was going to be the only way that you were going to go about doing this problem. Okay, now some of you guys didn't even get to this point. In this problem. I don't know if you just got stuck. Some of you guys actually try to plug in a value for n when there was no value to plug in for n. That's what you were actually looking for, and then you just go from there. Okay. Now be careful when you're typing this in. If you want to make it easier for yourself, you can actually do 1 minus 1.5 and actually plugged in a negative 0.5 here. Anything to make it a little bit easier for you, but the answer was 10. It would have taken the 10th term before the sum of the geometric sequence was greater than the sum of the arithmetic sequence. But that was this quiz. Like I said, there were a lot of mistakes, and I was actually quite disappointed in the results of this. So you guys, after watching this video, you guys are going to have another numbers and algebra review because you guys are going to have another quiz, and it's going to have some geometry in it as well because you guys need to review that as well. So just be prepared. All questions I will address next class. So please make sure that you guys are doing what you're supposed to be doing to prepare for your final exam, and but not only that, but also for your quizzes that will come throughout the rest of our time together.